razzle dazzle.
Little fancy dancy.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we want to welcome you all to the Hello LLC. If you don't know, Hello stands for Helping Entrepreneurs Leverage Web3 Optimizations. And today, my friends, we're going to have an amazing conversation on men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I don't know.
I'm a Venetian.
Whatever you are, you are different. But we're going to have an amazing conversation today as Tara leads today's conversation. If you guys missed our amazing How To Tuesdays, then I highly encourage you guys to tap in to our wonderful weekly events that we have now started at 7 p.m. Some of you might have been accustomed to our 4:30 p.m. Eastern room, but we decided to push it back a little bit. It was too much, competition, too many other rooms that were going on during that time. We love competition, but we're not about competition because time is our only competition. And there's enough abundance out here for us all. So we decided to move our slot a little bit back, especially because it gives us more time during the day. And we hope you guys can share and join Miss Cambria. We definitely appreciate you sharing and reposting our actual posts on LinkedIn. And if you guys do not know, we are live on Facebook. We are live on LinkedIn audio and live. And we're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. We're live on Instagram. We're live on Spaces. We are live everywhere you can possibly think of, including TikTok as well. And if you guys want to be a part of our conversation, come on up, mi casa, su casa. We can have a conversation together. If you don't know, Tara and I are both digital nomads as well, and we have the pleasure to travel the world. Currently, we are together. We are currently in Mexico, but right now we're in Idaho, so we're kind of dual, in the States, out of the States. We keep getting text messages. Y'all living back in the States? Hell no, we're not coming back.
Yeah, everybody sees us in the States for a minute. It's like, you back in the States?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we had a friend yesterday that said, "Hey,
just a visit.
Are you guys coming back to Houston?" No, we are not at all. And so this is a quick trip. And back to Mexico we go, and then off to Thailand as we move forward. But love, I'm gonna stop talking because I know I'm from Mars. Your ass is from Venus. Talk to us.
We're going to Venus after that.
Yeah. Talk to us.
Well, howdy doody, everybody. It's great to be here. Happy Wednesday. If you're here, just go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back because that means you woke up 6 feet above, maybe 5 foot, maybe 4 foot above ground. Some people did not. So we always like to say thank you for that because at the end of the day, we're all here and we're all with each other.
Yeah.
And so, today we're going to have a great conversation. It is Wisdom Wednesday. We encourage everybody to come up and talk. This is not just our platform. You're more than welcome to drop your comments. In the comments, you're more than welcome to raise your hands, join the lives, join the conversation, be a part of this conversation because, again, it is just not our platform. This is for everybody to be a part of, and we like to make sure that everybody is a part of it. And if you're in listening mode only, we understand that. You can drop your comments. We will be able to read those as well. And finally, we always encourage everybody to come visit us in the metaverse. What is the metaverse? Yes, it's virtual reality. Why is it important? Because what was that stat that you read? By 2030, how many billion?
5 billion people.
5 billion people will be utilizing metaverse on a daily basis. How many are currently using right now, love?
That number, I don't know.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I thought I would just ask him,
Trying to put the brother on the spot.
No,
You're trying to make me give some false news.
I know it's in the low millions. Let's put it that way. I know it's not. It's
about close to 1 billion.
Oh, gotcha. Well, low millions. There you go. That's
million, two different things.
Two different
things. Go sit your ass down somewhere.
And count to 1 billion. Anywho, we're getting back to this conversation of men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Exactly.
So for those that don't know, today is Wisdom Wednesdays. This is where we share a bunch of wisdom that we've learned throughout our lifetime, throughout our corporate jaunt of 22 plus years each. So, that's 40 years of combined work in corporate experience, mainly at the C-level executive where we're dealing with executives or we were those. And then almost 9 years in our own business. So we share this wisdom openly, freely, because we want everybody else to, gather hold, put it in their knowledge bank, put it in their toolbox and utilize it if they can. If they can't, cipher through and find out what works for them. So today, David asked me, what do I want to talk about? And I said, well, let's talk about communication. And he's like, well, that's not sexy at all. And I was like, okay, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. What does that mean? For those that have read the book, congratulations. I read the book when I was little because my mom had actually, I'm looking at the bookshelves right now because I'm still at my mom's house. Anywho, I'm looking at the bookcases that had all of the books on it. And one of the books that was Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, I love the cover of the book. Like it was, it was aliens basically on the front cover. And I was like, oh, I'm intrigued. And so no other book on the bookshelf was intriguing at all. And so I started reading it. I have to say I started reading that book around 8-10 years old, had no clue what the darndest things that I was reading about was. That I understood the concept, but I didn't understand really the concept, because at that point we weren't really, we were just people communicating. And at 8 or 10 years old, I didn't understand the difference between communicating and men communicating. I'm 42 now. I have no shame in my game. And now I definitely am like, there's definitely a big difference. There's a huge difference between how men and women communicate. And really, at the end of the day, that's the whole breakdown of today's conversation, is just to share that information based on how that book was kind of compiled. Now, that book was written back in the 90s, which was 1992,
by John Gray.
Yes, by John Gray, which was, a great, it was a great statue then, but I think now, because it's got 22 plus years underneath its belt, it's become more popular within the last, 10 to 12 years versus that. And so today we're going to talk about some different things. We're going to talk about, all kinds of these different sides in this. But the biggest thing that I want to cover is that we're going to go over how leadership styles is different, communication styles is different, negotiation tactics of the way men and women do that, risk-taking, feedback preferences, listening skills, networking styles, conflict resolution, the use of humor within our conversations, and the response to stress, because all of those are done differently, whether you are a man or a woman. Now, we're not going to get in the deeper context of this about, well, I was born this direction, but now I'm this, that is a whole nother can of worms that I am not prepared to open up or talk about, because I do not have experience in that realm. And so we're going to talk just about the binaries of men and women, and however that, lies or fits or falls on you, you can take it with a grain of salt, or you can put it in your toolbox for another day. But, the biggest thing about this conversation is really identifying that there is a difference. I don't think I realized that there was a difference until I was in my early 20s, because for very frank reasons, a lot of times would just allow myself to kind of, go with the flow. I'm a go with the flow kind of person. I have my thoughts, my opinions, my ideas, and all of those things, but I am very much a go with the flow kind of individual. And that was something that, as I ventured into corporate America, as I was dealing with executives, CEOs, COOs, vice presidents, presidents, realizing that women and men communicated differently. And then in return, I communicated in a whole different genre. Let me just tell you some little stories here, because I'm all about sharing my stories. When I was younger and I would share, yes, as a woman, how many of you can relate? You want to get every detail in there. You're like,
No way.
Every detail that you are covering, that you experienced.
Actually, I would like to say that I find that to be more true of my male partner than myself.
I love
Just
that,
saying.
Miss Cambria. Well, see, this is the funniest thing about it, because, I myself absolutely share every detail. I listen to my brother and David talk, and it's just like short and to the point. And I was there during it. I'm like, you're leaving out so many details. But,
it really depends for me, because I love those feminine flourishes, as I think you're talking about, embellishment, so to speak. But I know there's a time and place to be concise, and I'm very thankful for even though Sean adds a lot of details, it's when he's passionate about something like bike mechanics or, these different topics that he likes. And then sometimes for me, it's a lot of details, but we're both artists. So, and I've read some of my favorite authors are very detail rich. But I think that it's good to have the balance of being able to be concise when needed. Because I used to be a self-described wordy bastard. Just saying.
Well, I love that you share that, because I will say in the same breath, I used to be the same way. I didn't understand the difference between detail-oriented and long-winded, and not detail-oriented and short and concise. And so it took me many moons and many years to realize, oh, you know what? Like you said, Cambria, there's a time and a place to be able to share, super intricate details about everything. I mean, the sky, the day that you were having, or that was blowing through when you were, making your deposit at the bank. I don't know, whatever that conversation is. And then there's the time of short, concise. Here's the meat and potatoes, as they would say. Now at 42 years of age, I do understand that, and I can get there. But I will say, when I started off this genre, or this jaunt and this journey, definitely I was, as you say, a very wordy person as well, self-proclaimed as well. Today, I'm sure David would, at the end of the day, slightly agree or disagree in the fact that I'm still very wordy. And he'll be like, okay, I've heard this, like, get to the point, Tara. And so it's okay now, because now I understand it. And it's funny because people that are around me, they love it, but I can tell by the look in their eyes when I'm sharing with them, oh, I better hurry this up, because I am losing them quickly.
You got 7 seconds.
I got 7 seconds to get to this, and I have taken 498 seconds just to get to the first breath, And so, yes, absolutely, in the sense of understanding that. So I wanted to go through just a few different kind of facts and figures here before we get started on this conversation. Did you know that women typically speak about 20,000 words a day, while men average 7,000? Now, this can vary.
So am I wrong when I say your ass talk too much?
Well, no.
Okay.
Not at all, because
Okay.
I do understand I
Okay.
talk a lot.
Okay.
Miss Talk a Lot. Tara
Okay.
the Talk a Lot.
All right.
So, yes. But so, in Cambria's instance, she might not, as she's realized that she's a little more concise than her significant other is, maybe those roles are reversed. Who knows? This is, the other side of this is, I've met women that are very short and concise, and I'm like, you are definitely not from Venus. I think you grew up on Mars, which is okay. Studies suggest that women typically, I already said that one. Research shows that women are generally more empathetic listeners. So we're more, got those listening ears with empathy tied to that. While, we use a lot of nonverbal cues, like nodding our heads, using our hands, shaking, looking at each other, all of that. I watch my brother when I'm like communicating to him, and he'll be paying attention to his phone, not listening to a darn thing. And then he'll be like, huh? What'd you say? And I'm like, exactly. You're not even paying attention. Somebody else I know that does that too, but we won't mention any names, Mr. Jones.
I think you talk about my ass.
Yes, I am. I am indeed. Conflict resolution. Women are more likely to seek compromise and collaborative solutions in conflict, whereas men prefer direct approaches and avoid emotional discussions. I've had this.
Why do you think that is, Tara and David, though? I just want to throw in the why.
Yeah.
Question.
On the conflict resolution one, is that the why we're answering?
Well, and the one prior that you mentioned, because I think it's so interesting, the whys behind some of these things that we're noticing, or patterns amongst different genders. And I think always, as a LGBTQ plus individual and represent for non-binary people as well in this. And I don't know exactly what planet they want to be from, but whatever planet they want to be from, I support that. Just saying.
Well, first of all, we support anybody who wants to be from any planet, because I am definitely not just from Venus. I am sure I have little bits of all parts of it. But I
agree. I think you're a starseed like me, Tara.
I am. I'm a little bit out there. So, other people
who
are a little bit out there, they resonate. They're like, ooh, you speak my language. So the whys behind the fact of like, first of all, like conflict resolution or listening styles. For listening styles, and I will only share my opinion because that's all I got. I've only walked in my shoes in my lifetime, is the whole fact of like, listening to people empathetically. I've really had to master over the past 10 years being able to listen to people empathetically, but not where their hurt, their trauma, their drama, whatever it is they're sharing with me as my own. It took me a long time to figure out how to decipher the difference between, somebody sharing with me that their dog got ran over. And by the way, that I would still be empathetic and like, heartstrung and, tied to that because I've lost, loved ones as animals and I'm very attached to animals in that realm. So it's probably a bad example, but I've learned how to be able to kind of disassociate myself a little bit and not wear their emotions as my own. That took me a long time. And I know that.
Do you know how you accomplish that, Tara? I'm so curious because I feel for myself, I'm an empath and I highly empathize with people to such a degree that I can take their emotions on as my own. Sometimes I can remember their stories as my own stories. Like one time someone broke something and I thought I was the one who broke that item. Turns out years later we discussed it. It was them. They're like, no, that was me. And I was like, I felt so bad for you. I thought it was me. How weird is that?
Well, that I was the same in the same boat. I would have conversations with people, whether it was an upset, a hurt, maybe even happy. And I would take that on. And it wasn't until probably, I would say, the last 5 years that I've really gained some awareness around it. The way that I was able to do that was self-awareness. That when people would be speaking, I would literally be talking to myself in my head, like, okay, like, guys, this is really what goes on in my head. Are you listening? Are you not just tuned out? Like you're not zoned out. Are you listening? Are you being empathetic while you're listening? Like, are you being emotionally connected? And then where I had to discover this, Cambria, where I was realizing I was connected, but I was keeping those emotions for myself, was when I would walk away from the conversation. I mean, to the point where I would, whether it was like a phone call or maybe it was on a Zoom or professional setting or somewhere outside of my home, I would get home and I would be sharing with David, because we've been together for 14 years. I'd be sharing with David and I would just be like living this as if it was my own problem, my own upset, my own hurt, my own, happiness, whatever it was, I'd be sharing as if it was my own. And I realized I would get myself so wrapped around the axle, especially on upsets. Like if somebody was sharing their upset about, a client did this or, who knows, whatever. Say it was something that happened in corporate America and a project was going sideways and all of this stuff was going wrong. And there was a major upset. The client was pissed or whatever. I'd come home and I'd be reliving that whole conversation to David as if it was my own, as if I was the one who experienced it. And I realized this took a lot of my own. David and I have been on a mindset journey for the last 8 to 10 years when we really started kind of diving into our own mindset and understanding our self-awareness of who we are as people, who we're being when we're in communication settings, whether it's with, a group of girls or with another lady, or if you're with a group, if you're with talking to men or, just a man themselves, singular or plural is what I'm trying to say there. But I realized I was taking it on and as it was my own problem in the hurt and the upset side of things. And I was reliving that and realized that I was causing myself own stress. I would be like, why am I so anxious and stressed out? And then I would go back down this why, like you asked, Cambria, ask yourself the why question. I'd go down it and I'd ask my why. I'm like, that wasn't even my upset. And why am I all upset around it? Like, that's not even my client. I'm not even the one who they're going to be calling. I'm not associated with this in any way. I was just a bystander listening to the conversation, you know, because someone needed a vent. And I've now taken this on. And I had to get real self-aware of that, of me doing that, to realize that I was owning it as if it was mine. And when I started to realize that, then I had to, it took me a while, but then I was stuck in the, okay, I know I'm taking it on, but how do I stop? How do I disassociate myself from that after I walk away? And it is only up until probably the last year or two that I have been able to kind of master the listening, being empathetic, understanding, you know, being there with someone while they're going through it. But then when I remove myself from that conversation, or the conversation's over, we go our separate ways, whatever, that I'm not harboring that pain level, that hurt, that excitement, that whatever, you know, emotion was happening for them. That took the longest time for me to identify. Once I identified that, was to disassociate. How did I do it? Besides, you know, to be 100, Cambria, to be very cognitively aware that I was doing it. I'd have to catch myself and be like, okay, well, you're causing this to your own self, Tara. Like, you're doing this to your own self. This didn't even happen to you. So if you want to be in an upset and, you know, be in an upset, and now it's causing an upset between you and David, you're the one doing this. Like, are you going to take awareness and self-awareness and responsibility of who you're being within this? So now I can listen to people in an empathetic way. I can, you know, if I have experience in that, I can say, oh, I totally understand. I've been there for sure, you know, and listen. And what it's helped me do, as I can't speak now, is to be able to be a better active listener. Before, I was not a very good active listener because I would want to dominate the conversation, or I'd want to fix it, which, if when I get back to my little, you know, facts and figures and kind of information here, men are the typical fixers. When they hear something, especially when a woman shares something and a woman just wants to kind of vent and be like, this is what happened to me today, the man will immediately go into, well, this is what you need to do. And it's like,
I find that very much the case with Sean. We've been together for 15 years, and just hearing you speak just now, Tara, really is so enlightening. And I feel I'm going to do a much better job. And so I'm so thankful to have come. And Laura in the audience I invited, and she's helping me process and integrate. So thank you, Laura, and thank you, Tara and David.
Yeah. Hey, Miss Laura, how you doing down there, girl? You come on up here if you want to speak. You don't need to be in the garden. You can come in the big house. Come on up.
Well, you are very welcome, Ms. Cambria. We openly share this just in the hopes that it does resonate with people, to know that they're not alone. They're not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, that you know, we're all in this together, really. And that we don't talk about communication. We don't talk about how to have healthy communication. We don't talk about how to, you know, be able to communicate with other people that don't see eye to eye with you, but to have respect in the level of communication. We don't talk about how men and women have different viewpoints, and it's in the sense of, like, you know, wanting to solve it. You know, I found myself for a very long, I'm a problem solver. If you bring a problem, if I hear of a problem, I want to solve it. And it took me a very long time with those conversations to sit there and say, you know, I don't have to solve this. This is not my problem to solve. And that's really where the disassociation came around, where I started to realize that I was taking people's conversation on, their emotions on, for my own. I had to, part of that whole process is realizing that I was not a very good active listener. I overpowered the conversation because I would want to jump in to help. And my helpful side was wanting to fix the problem for someone, and realizing that not everybody wants something fixed. it took David and I to get to a point in our life, in our communication styles, and this was in probably the last, 2 or 3 years, to stop and say, hey, I'm going to share something with you, but I just need you to listen to what I'm going to share, and I don't need you to fix it. David's had to share that with me. Hey, I just want you to listen to this. I need to kind of just get this off my chest and you be a sounding board, but I don't need you to go out and solve the problem or build a system to solve this, the issue at hand. And so that was the reason why we could have that conversation, was because of reading Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and understanding that, typically, and I'm not going to say everybody, but typically, men are a little more geared at solving the problem. Well, anytime I would hear David talk about a problem, I was immediately in my head going, how can I solve this? How can I solve this for David? How can I build a system around it? How can I, help him ease his troubles and his pain? And in reality, that wasn't what he needed. And I will be very frank. We, as business owners, we go through things, right? Anybody, by the way, anybody in life goes through things. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner or not. You can be, someone who is, works in corporate America. You could be, employed by a small business, whatever it is. We all go through things. And as we go through things, David and I are people that we need to be able to voice it, talk about it out loud for us to kind of process it and then get rid of it and be done with it. And doing that is helpful when there's somebody else around to talk to and say, hey, I need to kind of, sound off, share my thoughts and, get my upset out, but this is not about you. And again, we've been together for 14 years. It took us a long time to realize that as we did this, as we were building a relationship, a lot of times the other person would just sound off talking about something that happened, and the other person would take it on as if they were the problem, or, like if I was attacking David or if David was attacking me. And in reality, that wasn't the case at all. What was the case was we just needed to be able to vent, as we all do as humans, and that we need someone to just listen. It's funny now, my brother, communicates differently now. He used to, for a long, long time in his life, kind of stuff things down, not talk about it, not discuss it, either with the person that he was upset at or had the issue with, or with anybody else. And now, over the past, couple of years, he's gone back to just being like, no, I'm not going to stuff that down anymore, because if I do stuff that down, it doesn't help anybody. It causes, and we all know this, right? If you stuff things down and internalize it, you're creating stress within your body, which is ultimately going to turn into dis-ease, which is ultimately going to turn into disease, as we harbor and frequency that is not moved. And that is why, as humans, we have to talk out loud to get these things out of our frequency, out of our aura, to move that energy, that stuck energy that is in us, if it happened to us or if it happened around with somebody else, at play. And so it really just comes down to kind of understanding, what is so. And now, as we talk about Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, not everything happens like men only solve problems. I do too. Women only, listen to it in an emotional way. David listens to things in an emotional way as well. But we've really had to get very open about, hey, I need a space to communicate in. And really, this is just me venting. And I just need you to kind of act like you're listening and then not fix it. Or, hey, Tara, I need this to be fixed. This is me venting, but there is an issue here that needs to be fixed. And so it's just communicating what we need. And that took us 12 plus years to really try to get that kind of ironed out. What would you say, Mr. Jones?
Well, I would agree with you.
I said a lot there.
Yeah, you definitely took that 20,000 to 70,000 words to heart. For sure.
Maybe
my ass. But anyhow, you know, you're spot on, you know, and we're still working on those things because it all depends on how we feel. If you've ate, if you haven't ate, if you're tired, if you're not tired. And, you know, it all circulates around understanding each other and really giving each other grace at the end of the day, and not expecting so much, and communicating those things as, you know, hey, you know, especially, you know, when it was that I would try to fix things, it wouldn't be communicated. Hey, love, I've had a rough day. You know, can you just listen to me and let me explain those things? And I think that would be so crucial if we did communicate that effectively and we told people, you know, what we wanted, and not necessarily telling people, but having them understand, because once again, us as men, we don't read damn minds.
No.
And a lot of the times, you know, us being from Mars, you expect us to read, you know, Venus and understand these things of, you know, how men are different, you know, and how we really, like you talked about, you know, men expect respect and appreciation while women are primarily, you know, needing love and affection. And we've talked about this, you know, with emotions, especially when it comes to, you know, communication styles. You know, men will withdraw ourselves when we get stressed, when women will, you know, want to talk out their feelings, you know, left and right. And there's nothing wrong with that. This isn't making either side right or wrong. It's just understanding and giving each other's grace. And then especially with problem solving, you're right. Most men want to focus on the solution while women want to focus on the emotional support. And that's something that we've talked about a lot of the times, you know, especially in our relationship, that I would come with Tara with facts. Well, this is what happened. This is what you said, this, that, and the other. And I didn't care nothing about no damn emotions. I was just, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is what you text. This is what I text. You know, I'll never forget a time that, you know, I asked her, you know, one thing, and she took it completely the other way around. And I'm like, baby, look, read right here. That's not what I said. She's like, I don't care what you said. This is how I felt. I'm like, are we speaking the same damn language? Are you kidding me right now? It says literally what I just said, and you flipped it on its head and said something completely different. And that's not what I meant by it. And so this is really where, you know, we have to be able to slow down and not listen to respond, regardless if it's a woman or a man. That's what today's society is, because it is where we think to ourselves 60,000 times a day, and 80% of it is negative. And so when we do listen to people, it is the negative vibration, it is the negative energy. Unfortunately, unless you work on those things, right, and turn those into positive mindsets and really understanding where people are coming from, and not bringing in your past, not bringing up the past, not allowing the past to affect the present, and really just taking that situation as is at that particular moment, especially when, you know, we talk about navigating, you know, relationship, you know, challenges.
Can I add in on something?
Yeah,
that
sure.
You said right
Go
there?
ahead.
Well, you said the key word was kind of what expectation to know. Like when we're talking as two different people, everybody has an expectation level. Like it's whether I just want you to listen, or I need you to solve this, or whatever it is. And I think what is unsaid a lot of times, and that's what you're pointing to, that we've now figured out how to say, is this is communicate the unexpected expectation, meaning every human has an unexpected expectation, meaning we always expect something. So if I come into a conversation and be like, hey, this is what I need, I'm going to do this, I need this in return, can you do that? Can you create that space for me? And it's more asking and say, and going through, it's like it's like ordering a hamburger. It's like, hey, I want cheeseburger with, no lettuce, no tomatoes, no nothing on it. I just want, mayo, cheese, and meat. That's it. And a bun.
Today, I ordered your Subway. Tara didn't put lettuce on there. And I'm like, oh, maybe she forgot to put lettuce. And I got back home and I'm like, hey, baby, I think you forgot to put lettuce. She's like, no, my ass didn't want lettuce. I was like, ooh, shit.
But I didn't say nothing.
But you didn't say nothing.
I saw lettuce and I was like, screw it. I'm going to eat it because it's fine. It's not going to kill me, Did
you guys know that the sacred feminine side is the moon and the left side of the body, and the sacred masculine side is the right side? and the sun, and that's according to ancient Egyptians and South Americans?
Yes, ma'am. I have jumped way off into that end of things, and I sometimes explain it to David, and then I get way too deep, and he's like, "Okay, come back,
come back to earth."
Yeah, but with that said, it's just managing.
Speaking of earth, I got a jet, guys, but I appreciate our time together. Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Miss Cambria. And so, I think the biggest thing that we've learned is how to just ask the other person of what I need in this communication. And for instance, also to support David is a very factual person. He's going to say, well, this is what was said. And then you replied with this. And then I said this. And then you said this. And then you said that. And then this was said. And he will go fact by fact by fact. And a lot of times what I would not rebuke the facts. Like, I'm not saying that that's not what happened, but I was talking about how it made me feel. And he was talking about what actually happened.
Yeah, this is what I literally said. How did you get all of that?
And we had to go through that for many years, 10 plus years, 12 plus years to figure out that, okay, those are the facts. Absolutely, David. May I share with you how what you said landed on me and made me feel? And when I say that, or if vice versa, hey, I want to tell you what your words, how they made me feel. And when we share that, where I want to share with you what your words, how those words made me feel, that is where you're creating a space for it to be okay to talk about what is felt.
Yeah.
And that's when you're not fighting with facts versus emotion. And that's the difference between the men are from Mars and women are from Venus kind of conversation, is that, men are very factual. They're very to the point of this is what's happened, and no emotion or very little emotion assigned to that. And women on the other side, we are like, well, you said the sun is purple and that made me feel like the sky, like we're doomed and we're all going to, fall, to our deaths or something. I don't know, crazy. But
it's funny now, but it's not funny in the moment.
No, it's not.
When it's twisted around or something that's not said.
But it took us a long time to stop and say, okay, that is factual. That is what I said. When you said this in response, this is how it made me feel. Those are how your words made me feel. Yeah. Now, that's probably not how you meant it. This is not, wasn't your MO, but that is what it did. And I just want to share that with you so that way we can be aware of how it made me feel and what you said, and we can go ahead and iron out the details on that. So I just wanted to add that, Mr. Jones. I know that was, and then Miss Cambria jumped in to share a little bit there.
Yeah.
So, to go back to kind of that different behaviors and the different communications and listening styles that you were sharing.
Yeah. Well, it helps us build a stronger relationship by understanding each other's needs, having effective communication, because a lot of people talk about communicating, but they don't know what effective communication is. And a lot of the times we allow our traumas, our dramas, our patterns, and our programs dictate our style of communication that you only know how to communicate and the other person doesn't know. And, that's where it takes, active listening. That's where it takes empathy, for us to be able to understand each other and give each other grace. And more importantly, addressing specific needs. And, the criticism and the arguments and how they develop, and make sure, as we've talked about, is conflict resolution strategies that can prevent the argument from escalating and getting out of hand and just going to a shit show at the end of the day. And then really, intimacy is impacted by all of that, such as a conversation we had the other day. That conversation is sexy. Having effective communication is sexy and brings that, into the conversation where each other feels, loved, each other feels heard, each other is willing to drop down our barrier that we have, especially in a relationship, with men and women, and just any relationship, period. You can say one wrong thing and that can ruin the relationship. I was looking at a post earlier today, and this guy had this fabric where he was trying to tear it and he couldn't tear it. He handed it to the student and the student couldn't tear it. He then took some scissors and barely snipped it. And then he went to go and rip it again, and boom, it ripped.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how effective, or should I say, that's how relationships can be ruined, by that one little cut, that one little word, that one little phrase, that one little statement that really can throw it under the water. And we've all experienced that at the end of the day. And so making sure that you support each other when it comes to emotional support, when it comes to encouraging support, and really that helps strengthen the relationship at the end of the day. That then goes to personal growth and development, where we can, be aware of each other, be aware of how we're communicating, which helps us with other people. And, having that emotional intelligence is something that we talked about a lot, and developing that emotional intelligence and how we can improve our overall well-being with ourselves. And then, stress management. Nobody wants stress, right, in the relationship. As for me, I have to go out and face, the world. The last thing I want to do is come home and have to, get in an argument or be stressed at home when I'm dealing with it on an everyday basis. And so, and that comes down to prioritizing our own health, right? That we can prevent burnouts, maintaining a healthy balance, and really making sure that we stay ahead, of our bodies, because us taking care of our bodies takes care of the relationship in a whole, especially when it comes down to all dynamics of the relationship. And so that's what I'd have to share. And guys, today's room will be cut a little short because we're going to be hopping over onto Miss Margaret's amazing room that we're having. We're being her special guest over in Margaret's room for the Powerhouse Couple. That's starting at 6:00. So definitely join us over there for you guys to catch on more of this amazing conversation that we're going to continue to talk about, which is why we had this conversation. So we kind of got a little warm up, you know what I'm saying, a little razzle dazzle as we talk about, these amazing conversations. But what else you got, love?
Well, yeah, it just kind of comes back to that simple fact of where you're, talking about the different needs. And that's really what, is the biggest thing, like, for instance, you're talking about the conflict, kind of side of things where, where when there is a conflict that arises, women are more likely to seek compromise and collaborative solutions, when it comes to conflict, where men prefer a direct approach and may avoid emotional discussions. I'll say this. We are a society that has been, we have not allowed anybody really, but mainly men, to verbalize or express their emotions, to show their emotions. So we have, a lot of times when little boys are young, it's, don't cry, crying's for girls,
Yeah.
And that's right there, suppressing an emotion.
Yeah.
And then
which is why when you come talking about emotions, it's like, shut up. We don't want to hear that shit.
Exactly. And in reality, that's why, the book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus is such a powerful conversation, because in reality, that is the case. Girls, yes, you might be raised by a father like I was, which is like, stop your crying, like get yourself together and then come talk to me. And there was no whole lot of, coddling of the crying. But as an emotional person, as a Cancer sign, my sun sign is Cancer, I will say. My rising sign is Sagittarius. So, you got emotion and fire in there, with a Sag. It gets pretty spicy sometimes. And I remember my entire childhood, I would always be told, don't, get yourself together, and then once you're ready to talk, to come talk. And as I got older, I would always be like, well, why am I always, emotional? Why do I always cry at, the dog on TV that, in the movie that, didn't make it, or, someone, has a reunion with a loved one they haven't seen in a long time. I get all sappy about it. And I had to realize that's just who I am. I am an emotional person. It's
You'll
okay.
cry at a commercial.
I'll cry at anything. I'll cry, at a little bee get killed or something. It's just the craziest things. But, I tapped into that emotional side of things and understanding that. But in reality, it's also being mindful and self-aware, which we were talking at the beginning of this, to how to decipher the difference between not living there as it's a trauma or it's as it's a bad thing. And then, again, with David and I's relationship, David's cancer as well. So he does have an emotional side as well. But, as a guy, he's been, kind of forced, as a society forces them to not cry, not show emotion, not, have any of that, which is why David always, his go-to was facts. Well, what factually happened then? Because if I can't show emotion, then I can go to facts, and facts is what's concrete based. And even though my emotions are concrete based in how I'm feeling, I can't express that, but I can express facts. And we can't argue with facts, because facts are something that is used in a court of law and all these things, right? So that is what happens as a society, as we continue to push people not to allow themselves to express, or how to express that I'm having an emotional reaction. This is how I feel with these, emotions about this life event happening, or this conversation, or this upset, or this happy moment, or whatever it is that's come down the pipeline. We have to, as a society, get better to say it's okay to express yourself. It's okay to share the emotion on that. The other side of that too is when people are sharing emotions, is not to get wrapped in like you are the one that emotion, they're taking that emotion out on you. You're not the responsible party. For a very long time in David and I's relationship, one of us would be expressing on an emotional side of things, and the other person would be like having a reaction saying, like as if I did it. David would be sharing something with me, and as if I was the one who did it to him, and getting all tied into the emotional side of things. And that led to conflict as well a lot of times with us. And so we had to separate and kind of back up a little bit and say, okay, that's not the case at all. What's going on is the simple fact that, David had, this is what happened. This was the emotional reaction he's having to it, and listening to that, and not taking it on as I'm the one who did it, or I'm the one that has to fix it or solve it for him. And in reality, to say, okay, I got it. That's what happened. I completely understand. How can I support you, or how can I help you if you need any help within this? And asking instead of just assuming. And a lot of times listening to the emotional side of things, but removing yourself from that immediate emotional attachment, and realizing that David had, an event or something that happened today, and I wasn't even around. I'm not liable for this. It's not my responsibility. But in reality, I can be responsible to be an active listener. And then at the end go, would you like me to help with anything? Do you need me to help with anything? Or did you just need to go ahead and vent and allow, that to be, that steam go off? And those asking those questions allows our communication to get even stronger. And I'll finish with this as we wrap up this amazing room that we had today. I was having a conversation with my brother, and we were talking about having conversations with other people, and how people that are stuck in their trauma or their drama, and we all have it. Some of us are not stuck. Some of us are stuck. More self-awareness you have, more work you've done around your traumas in a past life, whether it's early childhood, whether it's young adult, whether it's, in your adult age. The more work we do around that, the further we can distance ourselves and unattach ourselves. But a lot of times as a society, we are not unattaching. We are fully attached to our trauma. It runs how we communicate. It runs how we respond. And I was having a conversation with my brother about, the differences between having conversations with people that are stuck in their traumas, and having conversations with people who have dealt with their trauma, understand that they've had something going on, and really can have a conversation with someone that is a dialect that is not where they're responsive for whatever conversation's happening. And when you have been around someone for a very long time that is stuck in their traumas, and you're communicating with them and they're always stuck in their traumas and they're reacting to what you're saying because of their trauma, not anything that you're doing, but because of the trauma they've suffered in their life, that creates a real hostile environment. And you can't have a conversation where you can be open and vulnerable and say, hey, this is how I feel about that. And you might feel differently. And I respect that. It's okay. It's okay for us to have differencing of opinion. And I'm wholly respectful of it. And you're wholly respectful of me having that differencing of opinion. And there's no issues there. A lot of times we do not do that. We get stuck in our traumas. And next thing you know, it's just a whirlwind. So closing remarks as we finish this amazing conversation up today. I know it's short, but we've got another room to lickety split to here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. And so you guys make sure you come and join us on Friday for our Getting Naked podcast that is going to be in the metaverse. It's also going to be, live, that you can come and join us. You can join the metaverse from your cell phone, and that's at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time, PM. Definitely make sure also Saturday we have a fun-filled event with other podcasts, Kiss of Fame with Roberta Pacino, Al Pacino's sister, at 1 p.m. Eastern. Transform your life, a holistic path to growth, well-being, and self-connection. She's going to have an amazing guest that you guys can definitely come and join us. I encourage you guys to come and visit us in the metaverse and see this amazing experience. This is not Go Brunch. Go Brunch is just a green screen with your face in between it. Please stop allowing people to tell you that it is a metaverse. It is not. It is definitely better than Zoom. This is the future. As we shared earlier, 5 billion people will be in metaverse by 2030. That's literally 5 years from now, because this year you can call it over and done with. And then on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, set yourself free with Cleo Michael, living a life you love, how your thoughts shape your reality. Definitely don't want to miss this amazing event. She's going to have an amazing guest as well, Shondi Goings, on this. And this is also going to be in the Hello Plaza. You guys can come and join also and be a part of this amazing podcast and see it for yourself. And so definitely make sure you guys come and join us for our weekly events. We've moved our Tuesday and Wednesday rooms to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There was some conflicts with some other rooms and things of that sort. We moved it to this time. Now we're, in conflict with other people at this time, so you never know. But definitely we're going to stick to the 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you guys can come and join us, especially go to Miss Lisa's room that she has earlier in the day, so we're not competing with you, Miss Lisa, also. So definitely we'll be showing up in your rooms a little bit more, so we're not competing. But other than that, we love you guys all. Thank you, Miss Tracy, for joining us also for 2 days in a row. Gladly appreciate you guys for joining and participating and sharing and liking our posts as well, because that's what it's all about. But without further ado, you guys know the drill. Love,
kindness,
integrity,
but most importantly,
commitment
and consistency.
And until next time, toodles! See you guys later. Have an amazing day. And then I'll show you.